and it is the Beretta 303 semi-automatic. Now in about 1987, Beretta launched the 303, which is the gun we've got here. And what was interesting with the 303 is it was the first Beretta semi-auto that actually made in longer barrel variants, and because of that it was super popular with clay shooters. So whereas I don't think any other manufacturer back in those days produced a long barrel, you could actually buy a 303, certainly from my memory, in about 1990. Not that I was in the trade and I was at school, but I remember a lot about these guns. With 30-inch barrel, which was unheard of, because at the time Beretta 686s, 687, 682s were probably becoming the best-selling over and under shotgun in the UK. And when this gun landed, it was really popular. Yes, you could buy it in a field version, you could buy it in a 20 gauge, but the one I think that would have probably stolen most of sales in the UK was the 303 Sporter. Now we've got a couple of 303 Sporters here today to look at. If I start with this one, so if you actually look there, it says the 303 Sporter. You can see that where it says Sporter on the trigger guard. Okay, nice bit of sort of tasteful scroll work, and I really like these lines. So the lines around the inside of the action, which from memory the 302 doesn't have, I think it's just scroll work. So it sort of makes the actual engraving sort of stand out a bit more. So this is the sporting version. So it was available in 28, 30 and even 32 inch, which, like I said, it wasn't heard of at the time. The 32 inch, which was the Supersport, which was the ported barrel, which actually these models are both Supersport and ported barrels, came out quite late. And I think from memory again, these guns ran from about 1987 to 1996-ish, when of course you had the 390, which was the Hogsback stock, and then into the 391, which they made for hundreds of years after. So sporting rib again, which added a little bit of extra weight, which is what you want as a clay shooter. It was using the same sort of recoil pad as the 686, 687, 682s at the time, which is a rubber thing on the back. But it was just super popular because it wasn't super light like some of the previous models that Beretta made. It got a good bit of weight to it. It looked the part. You know, you've got this sort of semi-beaver tail forend as well, which was, you know, nice to hold on to when you're shooting sporting clays. And they sold these by the bucket load. And one of the reasons they sold by the bucket load is because they never went wrong. If we go back and compare it to the 682, which was a really popular clay gun at the time, Barry Simpson was shooting one extremely well. He was using 32-inch barrels. So to get the option of having a longer barrel in a sporting semi-auto clay gun, because let's not forget, everybody didn't want to shoot over and unders, but it's a gun that I've always held really dearly. It's part of my shooting career, my career in the gun trade. And if you speak to a lot of people that have been shooting for a lot of years, and you say, what's the best Beretta semi-auto of all time? It is always the 303, because it was just so good. Now, we talked about the Supersport model, which was the one that the clay boys sort of fell in love with. And this model, the reason it was called the Supersport is it could have had a ported barrel. So what you've got to remember is with a semi-auto, it's not a particularly heavy gun. I think these are probably 7¼ pounds, something like that. You do tend to get a bit of muzzle flip. So what Beretta came up with the idea was, let's port the barrel, let's reduce the muzzle flip, and then it just makes it a more user-friendly gun for all types of clay. I mean, I do know people actually shot down the line with these in the 90s, which again shows that it wasn't just a sporting gun. And with the ported barrel, it just made it a bit more user-friendly. Mobile multi-chokes, again. We talked about the standard 301 and 302 choking system. This was the first Beretta semi-auto to use mobile multi-chokes, which we know how popular they were. I mean, they only stopped using them about probably 3 years ago in the current range of silver pigeons. And this is just something a bit different. I mean, this particular one we've got here is a 28-inch barrel Supersport, circa 1991. You look at the gold on the trigger, it's not had a huge amount of use. But more importantly, when you're looking at an older semi-automatic, particularly a Beretta, which has got like an anodized action rather than a blued action, is if you look at the ejection port, just where the cartridge is going, obviously every time a cartridge comes out there, the lip of the cartridge, the brass, metal, whatever it might be, will catch it. So if it's had a lot of use, then there'll be a lot of wear on that port, which you can see for this particular model. There just isn't. There's barely anything on it. Whereas if it was got big chunks of anodizing and blacking missing, then you could argue it had a lot of use. This gun too, we've got stripped down. This has got a slightly different bed of wood, but they are completely original. Got the original butt plates. Like I say, if you look how crisp the checkering is on this particular gun, this is the one that comes in the cardboard box with all the original Italian paraphernalia. I would personally choose one of these over any sort of new, certainly Turkish semi-auto. Like I said, don't be put off by the age. These guns have been around a long time. They've got a huge following, and you know, for what you can pick them up for, 400-500 quid-ish, I would have no hesitation in buying one and putting one in my armoury. So that is it, the Beretta 303. Any questions you've got about the 303 or any other Beretta semi-autos? They're informative, a bit different, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon. See you later.